Regina Cooper, my partners in crime. We are all licensed independent insurance agents, and we're here to share with you more about the power of and particularly how you as an investor can leverage that. So, all right, so let's go ahead and get started. All right, so who are we? We are with FFS. Our mission is to inform, educate, and empower individuals, families, entrepreneurs such as yourselves, and business owners about the next generation financial technology so that they may achieve financial security. Specifically, there are 4 major areas that we focus on. We focus on teaching people how to protect their savings, their hard-earned savings from loss, and provide upside potential. Putting compound interest to work for us instead of against us, maximizing the use of tax-advantaged savings as well as lifetime income, and also, in many cases, redirecting funds that you're already spending or that we are already spending as entrepreneurs to gain better value for our money, to protect ourselves, our families, and our businesses. All right, so if next. So what do we mean by guaranteed no losses with the upside potential of the stock market? Well, essentially what we help people do is move from the red line to the blue line in this chart. If you notice that the red line represents the S&P $100,000 invested in the S&P 500 in 1998, and you notice that it goes up, it goes down.
Thanks, Jenny. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Okay, I think I got that. Anyway, you notice that this is the roller coaster ride we've all been on with most of our investments, historically speaking. And granted, you know, we're on a pretty good run from 2011 to 2014. I think the real question on most people's mind is, it's dollar cost averaging and buy and hold, you know, things like that. It does, in theory, work. As you can see, you know, the gains are there, but it's a little bit more of a timing game in terms of, okay, if I was expecting to retire in 2002 with that $100,000 investment, you know, maybe I wasn't doing so well, and so I have to wait till I recoup that. So whenever we move people from the red line to the green line, essentially we are actually getting them into a position where maybe they don't get the full upside potential of the gain, but when the hard times do hit and the stock market does go down significantly, they're locked in. People are locked in. Every single dime that they've put into those accounts is there and available to them. And notice whenever the S&P 500 starts going up again, we start going up. We pick up where we left off, and we keep going up. Locked in and going up. And so essentially the motto we have here is zero is your hero. And if you'll notice on the handouts slide on the right-hand side of your screen where the chat window is, there's a handouts button. And inside of that handouts I've placed 5 things. And one of them is actually a chart which shows the difference between real gains and average gains. And so I will let you guys download that and look at it. So what do we mean? What is this called? What does the green line really represent? Well, it's really representing the power of indexing. So generally speaking, we've all been educated that there's 2 major types of products. There's fixed products in terms of investing, and as we all know, CDs, money market funds, you know, things that have guaranteed no losses, or safety of principal is the other language we use, generally provide a very, very low rate of return. On the other hand, investing, including real estate investing, notes investing, other things like that, and variable products, we love them for the upside potential, but many times we as investors are optimistic people, and we always forget that there is actually the risk of principal inside of it. So what is the indexing? The power of the indexing is combining the safety of principal and the upside potential. Thus, we have the power of and as our presentation. Now, as investors, we talk a lot about sources of funds. Where do we get our funds from? We talk a lot about OPM, be it friends and family, private lenders, hard money and institutional private lenders, banks or portfolio lenders, several different types of where we can gain leverage and not use our own money. We also talk a lot about personal vaults, be that cash, self-directed IRAs, Roth and traditional. Now, solo 401ks are becoming more and more common, both Roth and traditional as well. SEP IRAs, simple IRAs, and there's a fair number of vehicles out there that are discussed commonly and presented regularly in the investing market. So the question we pose to you is there another vault? Is there a different way of holding your money and still being able to use it as a source of funds for your investing? Obviously, the answer is yes. Otherwise, we wouldn't ask you to be here this evening. And the real trick here is asking yourself the question: can I make money on my money in terms of earn an interest rate on my investment while still using that money to invest or lend in my real estate investing strategy? And the answer is yes, but you have to place your money in a different kind of vault. Now, what are the features of that vault? We've already talked about a few of them. That vault has the guarantee no losses, and yes, I understand we're all regulatory minded. Again, James, Regina, and I are all licensed insurance agents. We can legally say that, and the reason is because we are representing a fixed product that actually guarantees no losses. This is also a vehicle where you can become your own bank and borrow up to 90% of the cash value or account value at bank-like rates, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later on. The other cool and interesting part about this, which we'll really cover, is that you can also use these funds for whatever you choose. Now, given that we're all highly trained individuals and we're all want to do our own due diligence, and we highly encourage you to do so, we are referencing specifically IRS Tax Code 7702 and 7702A. So I'll give you a second to write that down. Again, IRS Tax Code 7702 and 7702A. Sometimes, if you're doing your research, these are called 7702 accounts. Generally, we're just talking about the same thing as we move forward. So let's talk about an example. Let's get to the brass tacks. What would this mean to me as a rehabber? Let's say I have $100,000 in account value. On the previous slide, we indicated we could borrow up to 90% of our account value from ourselves. So we have available to us to borrow is $90,000. We can borrow those funds from your own account at bank-like rates. Right now, it's ranging right under the 5% mark. And then the awesome part about this from a rehabber's perspective is you can fund the project however makes sense. Then once you're done with the project, you're a disciplined investor. You'd pay yourself back just like you pay any other bank or financial institution back, and then you profit the profits as income. So these are tax-free loans. So there's no taking the money out of an IRA or cashing it out and paying taxes. The other awesome part is, as a rehabber, is you can do as much work as you want on the project. One of the gray areas with self-directed IRAs, and we love self-directed IRAs, they're a fantastic vehicle. We look at this new personal vault as a diversification of the source of your funds versus necessarily a replacement, a wholesale replacement for your source of funds. But you can do as much work as you want. As we all know, when we're educated on self-directed IRA investing, there's a limit to how much work you can actually do on your projects. There also are no arm's length transactions. You want to do a deal with your daughter or your son, feel free, do it. There are no constraints on whom you can do deals with. In fact, frankly, there are no limitations whatsoever on what you can do with these funds. It's just, given our audience tonight, we're talking about using them for investing specifically in the real estate arena. And because there are no arm's length transactions, and because there are no restrictions on the amount of work you can do, there's also no risk of what we call blowing up your account. That's That's the thing that most people fear the most about self-directed IRAs, is the idea that one small transgression in the single deal essentially can wipe out the tax protections for the entire account, regardless of how long that account's been in existence and how many deals have been done. And oh yeah, did I say that we could make money on your $100,000, your full $100,000, while still using that $90,000 to invest in real estate? So let me take a quick peek. Are there any questions so far? I do not see any hands raised. Okay, awesome. All right, so next example, this is for all of our private lenders or OPMs or people that are considering working with private lenders out there. Again, $100,000 account value example. You have $90,000 available to borrow. Let's say that you're, again, borrowing the $90,000 from yourself at a bank like Rate, right around 5%, and then you lend those funds at, say, 8% with 3 points or 12% with 3 points. Use the proceeds from the payments to pay the account back with interest, and then you make the spread of approximately, so you're making a spread of approximately 3% as cash flow, and then you can pocket the 3 points as income. And so this is actually a personal vault which is used most commonly currently in the investing world by private lenders. We're part of our mission at the Power of And is to begin introducing the rest of the investors, the rehabbers, and others into their ability to leverage this type of personal vault vehicle for their investing. All right, any questions so far? All right, looks like we're good. All right, so the question we commonly get is, why haven't I heard of this? You know, this sounds too good to be true. Why haven't I heard of it? And in the Banker's Code, written by George Antone, specifically on page 119, he says that much of the reason you haven't heard about this is, A, you must be a licensed insurance agent or have an account yourself in order to talk about it in any significant detail. What's written in the Banker's Code on pages 118 and 119, literally 2 pages out of the entire book, is about all someone who's not licensed can say about the concept and the idea that we're putting forward to you today. But because James, Regina, and I are licensed insurance agents, we can actually share this in significantly more detail with you, and that's our mission and our objective. But George also cautions us that most insurance agents, the vast majority of insurance agents, are not familiar with how to appropriately set everything up in this type of account. And there is a lot to know about how to do it properly. You need a knowledgeable licensed agent to make sure that you're optimizing your accounts if your intention is to do this type of investing out of the account and do it as effectively as possible. I do want to share with you guys that if you're looking to possibly learn a little bit more about the Banker's Code, you can download a free copy. I put the web link down here. It's impactwealth.com/bankers-code-book-free. It is technically a free book. You do have to provide some contact information, but you can download a copy of that. Or you can attend the BWI meetup, and we give away one each time we're there. All right, next up, how do I fund my accounts? So let's say I'm interested. You know, you've hooked me. I'm interested. This is not the type of account where you can just dump in a full amount of money. It's a bit like an IRA in the fact that it has to be incrementally funded over time. The max contributions allowed into the accounts are explicitly determined by your personal individual factors, such as age, health, net worth, and other considerations. It can be funded with post-tax dollars, with cash you have available or income you have available. Also, one strategy we've been using with some of our investors is that if you have a Roth IRA, a seasoned Roth IRA, meaning it's been around for more than 5 years, and you put, say, $100,000 of direct contributions in it, maybe you've been investing in that Roth IRA for 5 years, and that $100,000 has grown to $150,000, you actually have the option of potentially, pulling the money out, the direct contributions out of the Roth IRA once it's seasoned. So, and specifically, the product that we generally like the best, although it will depend upon your personal circumstances, is called Life 360. The particular combination of features we're going to be discussing tonight that are available are exclusively available to us at FFS through Anico for this product. So let's look at the actual numbers, and this is a bit of an eye chart. I apologize for that, but I want to show you that, for example, this is a 35-year-old healthy female, and so essentially we basically are front-loading her account $20,000 per year for the first 5 years for an initial cash input of $100,000. The estimated interest rate that is to be earned on this account based upon historical performance of the S&P 500 is represented here in the weighted average interest rate column. And then we can demonstrate to you that within those first 5 years, even with the cost of all the other benefits that we're going to share with you, we haven't gotten to yet, we're going to share with you a little bit, even with the cost of all of the other benefits, essentially, that $100,000 of cash put in is basically has been recouped in terms of dollar for dollar by the 4th year, the $80,000, and then again the $100,000. So, one of the biggest arguments that we frequently hear about this is, well, it's just too expensive. But we actually demonstrate this, and it, but again, it's depending upon your specific circumstances, and we'd have to run your specific numbers. But this is an example of how we could possibly fund an account. So I mentioned other benefits, and so what are those other benefits? So essentially, we've talked a little bit about protecting your indexed life accounts from market risk. The other benefits are that this type of account is also protected from creditors. It cannot be seized. It cannot be placed into a credit situation if you were to file bankruptcy or anything like that. It is also bypasses probate in most cases, as long as it's managed appropriately. We talked about the tax advantages. Because the leverage on this account is through tax-free loans, when set up and managed properly, as we discussed before, you actually can leverage this account for a lifetime and protect yourself from taxes. The key feature, because this is life insurance, and I know those are scary words for lots of people, but there is a death benefit that is available to individuals, within this account. So if you were to pass away, basically there would be a death benefit available to your beneficiaries. But the other really exciting part, above and beyond everything else we've talked about, is essentially the protection, what we call the living benefits, so protection against illness and disability. So essentially, you have a certain amount of death benefit. Let's say you have $500,000 of death benefit. If you were to become chronically, critically, or terminally ill, with, in this particular case, 16 triggers, then essentially you have the ability, the option, the alternative of calling up and saying, hey, I've been diagnosed with a terminal cancer. How much can I get advanced against my death benefit to deal with my expenses while I'm still here, so that my family doesn't have to go bankrupt, or I don't have to go bankrupt treating myself and waiting for myself to pass away. And so we're really excited about the combination of these specific features and the fact that these the illness and disability riders are available. So, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. We also talked earlier about redirecting funds that you already have. We've already talked about possibly how you could do that with a self-directed IRA. But let's say you don't have the cash sitting around, or you don't have a self-directed IRA, but you're still interested in these features. Well, if you're putting money away in a 401k somewhere, if you're putting annual money away in an IRA, mutual funds, stocks, bonds, any place that you're currently putting money away, we can actually also help you not just think about how to front load with $20,000 a year for 5 years, but also just put in like a monthly amount or an annual amount to start building up a program, a vault such as this. So going back to our previous example of a healthy 35-year-old female who's putting in $20K per year up to the age of 40. So whenever we ran her numbers, essentially that $20K per year gave her approximately $885,000 death benefit to protect her and her family. Assuming that she is a disciplined investor and as she borrows money from herself for her projects, she pays herself back. Ultimately, after 54 years, whenever she decides to quote-unquote retire, there has the potential, the upside potential of approximately $168,000 annual income. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a different example. And then we just talked about the chronic critical terminal illness. This chart over here on the bottom right-hand corner basically demonstrates to you out of that $885,000 at various ages, the potential for forwarding that money if you were to have any of those circumstances. So I just wanted to show you an actual example and kind of follow that example through. Any questions so far? All right, I do not see any hands raised. Cool. All right, moving on. So another point that we talked about in the earlier slides was we also, in addition to helping you figure out how to redirect funds you're already spending, as well as to protect yourself from losses, one of the other things we try and help educate people on and demonstrate the power of this particular personal vault is maximizing your tax advantages. So in the United States, I guess the general question we talk about, and several of you may have already heard this, is do you want to pay taxes on the seed or the harvest? And so essentially you want to pay taxes today before you plant the crop on the seed that you're buying, or do you want to pay taxes after you've planted and the crop's been able to grow and increase in value? So let's talk about how the difference between those two. There's really 3 ways in the United States we get tax protections. One is tax-deductible contributions, the second is tax-deferred accumulation, and the third is tax-free distribution. The trick in our tax code is we can only get 2 out of the 3. If you choose tax-deductible contribution and tax-deferred accumulation, you're talking about basically taxing on the harvest. So you have tax-deductible contribution, so you're not paying taxes on the seed, but tax-deferred accumulation. You're not going to pay taxes until you actually collect the harvest. This is also what's known as a traditional account. The vast majority of 401ks, 403bs, employer plans, TSP, the vast majority of those accounts that are set up by employers are of the traditional nature. This is also what we call traditional IRAs. The second one is, I'm saying, paying taxes on the seed. Thank you very much. I'll pay my taxes today, and then by paying our taxes today and still putting it in a tax-protected account under certain rules, we get tax-deferred accumulation with tax-free distribution once we become of age to start making withdrawals. This is what's known as a Roth account. And self-directed Roth IRAs are the most common vehicle that investors are educated about to support their long-term investing needs. All right, so have you considered your options? Which one are you doing today? So let's talk about A Tale of Two Brothers. Brother A believes in what we call the old way. So essentially these are 2 brothers aged 35. Both are saving the same amount of money, which turns out to be $7,200. I'll show you that in a little bit. And let's assume for the sake of argument that both of their investment accounts are earning the exact same 8% per year without any losses over time. So Brother A believes in the old way. He's maxing out his contributions to his 401k at $65.20. And woohoo, he works for a guy, and that employer is matching. So that's a fantastic thing. He's getting an additional $1,050 into his 401k account. And because he's also employed with this very gracious employer, he has a $600,000 30-year term policy available to him at a substantively discounted rate of $680 of annual premium. Brother B, on the other hand, met James and Regina and said, hey, you know, I'm kind of really interested in this. So I'm going to take that same $7,200 that my brother's putting away in the form of contributions to his 401k and annual premium on his 30-year term policy, and I'm going to choose to place it differently. I'm going to choose to pay a $7,200 annual premium on a $600,000 life savings account. This is the type of personal vault we're talking about tonight. All right, so who made the right decision? Fast forward 30 years, and Brother A has done really well. Again, that 8% compounding year over year in his 401k. He now has $858,000 saved in his 401k for his retirement. That's fantastic news. Unfortunately, because he no longer works for that employer, he no longer has his term insurance because it's only available while he's an employee. And oh, by the way, to replace that term insurance at the age of now 65, it's going to cost him $12,000 in annual premium to replace that. And remember, he was getting his tax savings all along the way. So over those 30 years, in addition to putting away all that money, he also got $65,000 in cumulative tax savings. So that's fantastic news. I mean, he saved a lot of money on taxes. Brother B, well, the cash value in his life savings account is $709,000. Still really good, because that compounding 8% year over year over year. But check this out. Because it's an ELISA, because he put that $7,200 every year into a life savings account, he still has life insurance to protect his family. In fact, his life insurance has grown from the $600,000 that he originally had up to $864,000 of death benefit. Unfortunately, he didn't have any tax savings, right? I mean, this is all paid post-tax dollars, so no tax savings for him. So his retirement account, it looks like maybe his brother did a little bit better on saving for retirement. However, it's really not how much you make, it's how much you keep that's most important when it comes to really any financial situation. All right, so results during retirement. Brother B is like, all right, awesome. I'm going to be taking out $97,000 of tax-free loans out of my life savings account every year. Because I paid taxes on the seed and not the harvest, I don't have to pay any tax. These are tax-free loans, period, in a sentence, no questions asked. It's not income, it's a tax-free loan I'm taking out of my $700,000 account. If Brother B dies at age 100 and he doesn't pay any of the money back of these $97,000 tax-free loans every year, he will have received in the between age 65 and age 100 over $3 million in tax-free quote-unquote income in the form of loans, and will still leave his family over almost $3.4 million in death benefit. And the reason behind that is the compounding keeps occurring. That $709,000 then doubles to $1.4 million, and that $1.4 million doubles to $2.8 million because the compounding never stops. Because we earn money on our money while we're still using our money, in this case, for retirement. Now let's look at Brother A. He wants that same $97,000 annual income. He worked really hard. he accumulated $858,000, but wait a minute, he didn't pay taxes on the money going into the account. So in order to actually get $97,000 of cash out of the account, he actually also must pay the $32,335 in taxes. So his total withdrawal from his 401k each year has to be $129,000, almost $130,000. Now wait a minute, let's do some math here. So the first year Brother A pulls money out of his account, he's going to pay $32,000 in taxes. On the previous slide, over the 30 years worth of contribution, how much total tax savings did he have? Was it at $65,000? So inside of the first 2 years of taking out withdrawals from his account, he will have already paid back to Uncle Sam as much as he saved in 30 years worth of contribution to the 401k and tax savings. And unfortunately, as we're finding many of our friends and colleagues, with Brother A's options are either to significantly reduce his lifestyle and really pare down so that he doesn't need $97,000 of annual income to live on, or if he insists on having $97,000 of annual income to live on, essentially he's going to run out of money in approximately 9 years. So, based upon this information, which plan makes you feel more financially secure for your future? So to wrap this up a little bit, we are talking about what we call an index universal life policy. Yes, it is a life insurance policy, but again, we're trying to highlight for you, both as investors, how it can be a vehicle, a personal vault that you can leverage, to support your investing, and it brings all of the other, cool and interesting features that we talked about, the cash value accumulation, the indexing crediting strategies. Now, not all index products are created equally. We are really thrilled to tell you that essentially the products that we have the privilege of representing do have 100% participation in the crediting strategies with both capped and uncapped strategies. And if you want to know a little bit more about that, we can share more. But essentially what that means is that, again, you're guaranteed no losses with the upside potential of the stock market on the interest rate that you earn. Then the other major one is the living benefits. And the awesome part about this is with 2 organizations that we represent, this is a no-cost rider. Essentially, there's no additional cost to being able to use the living benefits. And again, that's the chronic, critical, or terminally ill scenarios we discussed. Permanent death benefit, we showed that. It's not dependent upon your employer. It's not dependent upon, kind of where you're at. Once you're locked in, you're locked in, as long as you keep the account. And it becomes an asset. It becomes a true asset that you can leave to your family. We talked about the opportunity to save for retirement and generate a lifetime income. And the other key thing is with insurance is who are you getting it from? You want to make sure that they're reputable. You want to make sure they've been around for a long time. Well, we have the privilege of working with 2 of the lesser known in terms of, but highly rated and outstanding organizations. Aneco has been around for a little over 109 years, and National Life Group for over 169 years young. All right, let's see if there's any questions so far. All right, looks like no hands are raised. Hard to believe I'm doing that good of a job, but I'll take it. Okay, now let's talk a little bit more. So it's like, okay, Judy, I didn't know this, but I've been putting money away in a 401k for 20 years, and I now have, whatever, $400,000 in a traditional 401k, and I can't afford to pay the taxes on it to convert it to a Roth. All right, well, there are still indexing strategies. Again, indexing being guaranteed no losses, upside potential of the stock market, moving people from the red line to the green line. there's still products that can support you in terms of existing retirement savings. So generally speaking, we've talked a little bit for 401ks, IRAs, TSPs. There's very, very few options out there that do not offer loss of principal other than cash, where you're not earning any upside potential. With the new, which is the indexed annuity, basically provide no loss of principal. And strangely enough, on day one, with a particular product that we encourage people, if it's a good fit for them, you get a 10% bonus on day one. That product also comes with multiple indexes to choose from. There's several different strategies you can use for indexing, depending upon what your beliefs are about the stock market and how it's going to proceed forward. The second major question we have is, how much will I have when I retire? Well, let's take a small example. So let's say we started out with 100K, we rolled it over. Now on day one we have 110K. And let's say fast forward, I'm ready to retire now. I now have 200K, and let's assume that my IRA and my indexed annuity perform the same. Unrealistic expectation, but for the purposes of apples-to-apples comparison, let's make that assumption. On the indexed annuity side, it also has a lifetime income benefit rider with a guaranteed rate of return. Now, that guaranteed rate of return can be between 4 and 7%, depending upon your age and options selected. And what that means is that while the 100K is growing to 200K in this case, and when I decide, okay, I'm ready to take my money, I'm ready to turn on my guaranteed lifetime income, this rider essentially will do a calculation. It's a mathematical formula, run it, and say, is the minimum guaranteed rate of return that you signed up for, does it produce a larger account value than the actual interest crediting strategy that was earned over here? So in this case, it does not produce a higher rate of, so it turns out the indexing strategy did better than the guaranteed rate of return. So that's kind of how that works. But it's really awesome, particularly for people 50 and over. There's some really incredible options for you in terms of having a minimum guaranteed rate of return. The next question a lot of us are, okay, so now that I'm turning this lifetime income rider on my annuity, will I run out? Well, just like we did in the previous example, if you still have it in, say, an IRA or a 401k and you're taking out approximately 20K per year, you're going to run out in about 10, maybe 12 years, depending upon the performance of the account. But when you flip on that lifetime income rider, you may only get $15,000 a year, but it is guaranteed to you for the rest of your life, be it 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 35 years down the road. So, and what happens is essentially that $15,000 is then taken or balanced against the $200,000. If something, God forbid, were to happen to you and you were to pass away before you'd actually taken out in 15K increments the 200K, the remaining difference goes to your beneficiaries. So that's a huge change in the annuity industry from the battle annuities that most of us learned about when we were kids, maybe. And if you lived past that point, then essentially you just exhausted your resources and there's nothing left for your beneficiaries. So let's say you've been accumulating 15K per year for 5 or 6 years, and let's say, wham, you have a stroke, and now suddenly you can no longer perform 2 of the 6 primary life functions. Well, this particular, you have the option of selecting something called a well-being rider for a catastrophic event, and for 5 years, assuming that you activate this rider, for 5 years they will double your payments. So for 5 years, instead of getting $15,000, you'd get $30,000 in this example. And that the reason they selected 5 years is the average long-term care scenario in the United States right now is slightly over 3 years. And so they wanted to make sure that they were covering the majority of long-term care durations in the United States. So, all right, any questions so far? Again, this is a strategy that can be used for funds that have already been sucked away in a tax-deferred account and possibly either can't be moved over to an IUL. All right, so that's kind of the personal vault idea that we were talking about, and also some guidance on indexing strategies where we can protect your downside and still provide you upside potential on existing funds. We also want to share with you basically for business owners, different types of additional strategies to protect your wealth as you move forward. Because again, it's not how much we make, it's how much we keep. So for corporate retirement plans or business retirement plans, there's really two major categories: defined benefit plans and defined contribution plans. If we look at the defined contribution plans, these are the ones I think we're most familiar with, right? 401k, Roth 401k, solo 401k, probably most of us have heard of. These are the types of plans that I believe were most, and even profit sharing. Some people may have profit sharing plans depending upon what companies they've worked for in the past. So these are the defined contribution types of strategies where you can say every year I intend to put in whatever the maximum amount is, that $6,500, or then there's also the defined benefit plans. Defined benefit plans are really what one major category of them that historically has existed is the traditional pension plans. But that's the traditional defined benefit. But specifically, we want to talk, because we know we have a bunch of solopreneurs and partners, closely held companies as in the real estate environment. We want to talk specifically about an alternative to traditional pension plans called the 412(e)(3). So in general, why are we looking at retirement plans for businesses without employees, again, solopreneurs or, say, husband-wife partnerships? One is to create deductions, again, tax savings. Two is for business and estate planning. It's like, okay, how are we going to manage this if something were to happen to one of the partners? And three is just to accumulate wealth as quickly as possible as we all move into retirement. So what are the advantages to, generally speaking, of defined benefit plans, which is the green triangle on the left-hand side? Essentially, they can have significantly higher contribution limits than your 401ks or profit-sharing plans. You have a predictable benefit at retirement. By definition, because we're defining the benefit that you'll receive at retirement rather than defining the contribution you're going to make annually, you will know exactly what your expected outcome is and what you will be getting whenever you do actually go into retirement. The other awesome thing is businesses can have other retirement plans. This is not an either or. You can have one defined benefit plan and one defined contribution plan if you're doing well enough that they both make sense. And the other thing where we talked about kind of protecting and succession planning, things like that, defined benefit plans can also embed life insurance into them, so that if something were to happen to one of the partners, there's cash available to the company in order to help with succession planning. And one of the key things that makes this possible today, whereas, say, 5 years ago these were not very attractive, is that there are new laws that have created funding flexibility. Historically speaking, as a solopreneur, if I wanted to set one of these up, I had to pay the exact same amount every year forever, for as long as the plan was in place. It didn't matter whether I had a good year or a bad year. I had a banner year or I had a loss. It was still a constant fixed obligation that had to be paid every year. With the new laws and regulations that are in place, you essentially have some flexibility in funding. So if you have a banner year, you can make additional payments that year into the account, so that if you ever have a down year, maybe you don't even have to make a payment, or you can make a minimal payment. So the funding flexibility and the changes that have occurred in the last 5 years are really what have brought these defined benefit plans to the forefront for us as solopreneurs and partnerships. All right, so 412E plans, formerly known as the 412I plan, really do allow for the largest tax deduction possible. The plan investment must be in guaranteed insurance company products. Like I said, you will know exactly what you're going to get at the end of the rainbow. And you actually have a couple of options. You can have it 100% in a fixed annuity with a guaranteed rate of return strictly in an annuity, or like I said before, we can actually split the contributions between an annuity and a whole life policy. And unfortunately, we can't embed an index strategy. Earlier, we were talking about indexing. That fluctuates based upon the stock market. These plans must be in fixed products. So, but again, this is generally money that you're going to be spending on taxes anyway, that you're just redirecting back into your business and into your retirement account. So let's talk about the difference between those two options, 412E plan with and without life insurance. So the top is without life insurance. Let's say that this entrepreneur has been going very successfully for a number of years. They've been saying having like $300,000 or $400,000 in revenue, and they feel confident that consistently and persistently they can put away a little over $100,000 every year into their retirement. So without insurance, they're allowed to put away a little over $100,000. But with insurance, if they do embed a life insurance policy, that actually goes up to an additional $133,000. Sorry, an additional almost $30,000. So, and why is that important? It's because essentially you're actually getting to purchase life insurance to protect the business and do succession planning with pre-tax dollars. So the actual cost of this insurance plan is almost $27,000. However, because you're paying it with pre-tax dollars, your after-tax cost is a little under $16,000. That's a little over a $10,000 savings on the cost of the insurance. And again, it's providing that type of protection for yourself, your family, and your business. All right, any questions on this? I know this is, for those of you that have been on this webinar, this is new territory, and we just want to make sure that we're educating everyone as effectively as possible. All right, who's a good fit for a defined benefit plan? The 412E plan that we've been discussing really favors business owners and, like I said, closely held partnerships with few or no employees. Generally speaking, once you get around the 25 employee mark, the model tends to break down. And so we, particularly right now for solopreneurs, as you go into your tax planning, if you've been writing those big checks to the IRS this year, and you know that you've had a boom year, it may be worth looking into seeing what we can do. We're owners who are looking for large deductions, tax deductions. Owners who need to build retirement wealth and accumulate it very, very quickly and have an income within their business to substantiate it. And also business owners that potentially have a need for life insurance. Many of us as entrepreneurs, we're reinvesting everything that we make back into our business. Our business is our legacy. And again, I hope we're putting forth a case here that that sometimes, protecting that legacy and making sure it sustains the people that you intend it to sustain does require resources generally upon passing. We did talk a little bit about traditional plans. Again, this is benefits owners who may or may not have employees. they want larger contributions in the 401k plan, and also they want some flexibility in annual contributions. So, all right, we talked a little bit about defined contribution plans, so I won't belabor this one, but the huge advantage to defined contribution plans over defined benefit plans is flexibility. If you don't have a banner year, you can put in no dollars, and as well as your employees. The reason I bring this up in this context is frequently, as investors, if we do have a banner year, the guidance we're immediately given is, oh, you need to go open a SEP IRA, and dump your money in there, or a simple IRA. And I just wanted to demonstrate to you, even within the defined contribution space, that there may be better alternatives than just dumping the money into those types of IRAs that we're familiar with. In this case, we have an owner that's taking a salary of $50,000 from his business. The maximum amount that he can put away in a SEP IRA is $12,500. Whereas if he has a properly structured, properly set up 401k, it is possible for him to put $30,000 away. And so, again, not going into the details, and we can have plan designs done for you, but the long and the short of it is we really, it's really important to know what your options are. It's really important to understand all the different structures that are available to you as a business owner. But the difference between being able to sock $12,500 away and being able to sock $30,000 away could be substantial in terms of your tax savings. All right, and how is that possible? Let's talk a little bit about the specific type of 401k in which that's possible. It's what we call a DASH plan, a Double Advantage Safe Harbor 401k. It's a bunch of fancy language. But what that really means is that essentially you as the business owner are committing to do a profit sharing component, which is a 3% here. In addition, yourself and your employees can have elected deferrals. And by what you're buying, by giving your employees, oops, my apologies, this 3% fully vested profit sharing is you're actually buying the right as a business owner to put more money away. And because you're giving your employees something, a benefit, you actually have the right as a business owner to put a lot more funds away for yourself, and therefore grow your retirement funds as quickly as possible. And so in this particular case, there were 4 employees. You can see the ages there. The owner contributed a total of $64,800. But if you look at this, out of that $64,800 that he contributed to his 401k plan, $59,000 of it went to his personal retirement account. And so that's a 91% contribution ratio for the owner. So this is just an example, just to kind of demonstrate to you, even if you have employees, the potential of how quickly you can put money away for your retirement in a 401k plan. All right, who are a good fit for 401k plans? You want the deductions and possibly some tax-free income. 401k plans can be set up as Roth as well. There's some nuances to that, but they absolutely can be done and are being done more frequently. If the owner needs flexibility beyond the flexibility that's afforded in the 412E that we discussed, if you want to retain your employees, I mean, this is a fantastic way of, doing a little bit of profit sharing with your employees if retention is important to you. If owner and employees like having daily access to their accounts, one of the things is, we've kind of gotten in the habit in our society of either burying our head in the sand and never opening the account, or maybe checking it too frequently because it goes up and down with the stock employees to contribute to their own retirement. So one of the things we love about Aneco, our partner that helps us on the small business side, is that they're a one-stop shop. Frequently, as small business owners, we meet someone and they say, oh, I can help you put a 401k in place, and they help you with the plan design. But then you get handed off to someone else who funds it, and then you get handed off to someone else who administers it. And I don't know about you, but if you have a plan in place, of which we've had various retirement plans in place in some of our businesses, sometimes I end up getting caught between the plan designer and the plan administrator. It's like, oh no, that's an administrator question. Oh no, that's a designer question. And there's nothing more frustrating as a business owner than spending 2 hours trying to get them both on the phone at the same time so I can get the answer I need in order to move forward. Aneco is a one-stop shop. They will take the basic information, do the plan design, and they are essentially accountable to you as a business owner from beginning to end of your plan. They do support all plan types that we've discussed, as well as others that we did not go into in detail. And the most interesting part about this is that, James, Regina, and I have the opportunity to offer you a complimentary, confidential, no obligation consultation and plan design. And we want your CPAs there. We want anybody who's involved in your business, who supports you in terms of the financial decision making in your business. We not only encourage you to have them there, we actually almost require you to have them there as you're making this choice, so that we can make sure that you are, everyone on your team understands what you're doing, why you're doing it, and what your goals are. So, all right. Taking a little longer than usual, although we're right at 8 p.m. So we are scheduling one-on-one follow-ups. If you have an interest in that, we do have a follow-up schedule published. There are phone follow-ups. I personally will also be doing some follow-ups at the Tower Club in Tyson's Corner. We will also be hosting an in-person meeting right before the next BWI meetup at the BWI Marriott on the 11th of November at between 4 and like 5:15 p.m. And again, if you go on to the scheduling site, you'll be able to sign up for that group event as well. So thank you for all of your time and attention. Let me go to the questions, see if there's anything. Any questions, comments? All right. So let me go ahead and, Linda, I see that you're on tonight. I just unmuted you. Linda, do you want to share any thoughts on what you learned tonight? Okay, it sounds like maybe Linda's still on mute. Let me go ahead and find someone else. How are you tonight? Bill Conley? Are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. So what are your thoughts based upon what you heard tonight?
I think, excuse me, the application of a number of the things for flexibility is significant. And the fact that you can extract yourself from the restrictions of solely a standard 401 or IRA, be able to work your money, and if I understood correctly, be able to, in essence, double your money or make your money work twice.
Yeah, in our world we call that arbitrage, right?
In essence, yes. Very, very good presentation.
Oh, very kind of you. All right, Suzanne, I see that you also were able to join us. Kind of, what did you like best, or what did you learn in the presentation?
Well, I think I'm better
informed today on the 412s because that's where I really had a gap in my knowledge. So this was a really good presentation. Some of the earlier things I already had covered. I took a lot of notes.
Awesome. All right, I appreciate you sharing. And James and Regina, any additional thoughts from you?
Julie's, like always, excellent information, and free knowledge is the best knowledge when it's applied. And also the free gift of the book, being able to download the Banker's Code is a bonus for everyone, and I would encourage you to take a look at that as well. And just like everyone said, it's a lot of information, but you delivered it expertly and fluently. So thank you again for what you do and how you share it.
All right, very kind of you. Let me take a look one more time. A friendly reminder to download the handouts before we close off the webinar. Go find handouts on the right-hand side in your go-to webinar column, and make sure you get those downloaded. Very interesting. There's a little bit of everything in terms of what we uploaded. There's some business-related stuff. There's a living benefits document. And a Brother A, Brother B, the one-pager. It's kind of a one-page version of the Brother A, Brother B example that we went through, as well as, because I know we didn't cover annuities very extensively, but I did include the Barron's 2014 Top 50 Annuity Products, and if you download that and you look at it, the specific product that we were discussing tonight is actually ranked #1 in its category and has been for the last 3 years. So just don't take our word for it. You know, as you get to know us and as you work with us, and you know, in order to make better educated decisions, we are happy. We want you to do your own due diligence. We want you to feel comfortable with the organizations and us as individuals in terms of helping you discover what the right decisions are for you. All right, with that being said, one last check on the questions board. All right, again, thank you so much for your time and your attention this evening. I really appreciate it, and we look forward to hopefully having a one-on-one follow-up with you here shortly. Talk to you soon. Thanks.